If you've ever been curious about freshly milled flour, but you've seen the equipment, the different types of wheat, and maybe felt a little overwhelmed, today I'm going to simplify everything for you, because getting started is actually much easier than it seems. Hi friends, welcome back to For Your Heart and Home. In the last video, we talked about why freshly milled flour matters, the nutrition, the flavor, and how it can really transform your baking. But today, we're getting practical. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to get started, and just as importantly, what you don't need. Let's break it down into the simplest pieces. To start milling your own flour, you really only need two things: a grain mill and wheat berries. That's it. Now, when it comes to grain mills, there are two main options. There are manual or hand-powered mills and electrically powered mills. Manual mills are usually more affordable, but they do take more time and effort. Electric mills are faster and more convenient, which is what I personally use in my kitchen. I currently have the Nutri-Mill Harvest, but before getting the Nutri-Mill Harvest, I used an entry-level mill that I bought on Amazon, and I'll show a picture of that here. This mill worked just as well as my Nutri-Mill Harvest. The only reason I upgraded to the Nutri-Mill Harvest is because it was able to do larger batches of wheat quicker. Now, I do want to mention something important. Right now, grain mills can be a little hard to find because everyone is learning about freshly milled flour, and so there have been times where they're out of stock or on back order. So if you're ready to get started but can't get your hands on a mill just yet, don't let that stop you. There are a few simple alternatives you can use in the meantime. My suggestion would be to place your order for the mill that you would like. Stay on the waiting list, and in the meantime, you can use one of these alternative options. These won't give you exactly the same fine texture as a grain mill would, but they will absolutely get you started. One of the first alternatives would be a high-powered blender. These can grind small amount of wheat berries, and they work best if you blend and then sift if needed. The drawback is you will be sifting out some of the nutrients from the flour, which is why we're using freshly milled flour. But if you would like to experiment and give yourself a chance to get familiar with using fresh flour, this is a viable option. Another alternative is a Ninja Professional blender. Again, this is more budget friendly. It will mill your wheat berries. The texture might be slightly coarser, but still usable in many recipes. A third alternative would be a very high-powered coffee grinder. This again is good for small batches, but it's a great option if you just want to give freshly milled flour a try. With these alternatives, your flour may be a little more coarse, like I mentioned earlier, but that's okay. This is why I recommend starting your freshly milled flour journey with recipes for pancakes, muffins, and quick breads. These are much more forgiving, and the recipes still turn out beautifully. So if you've been waiting for the perfect setup, this is your reminder that you can start with what you already have. You can learn the process now and upgrade later if you so choose. So once you have your hands on the equipment to mill the wheat berries, let's talk about wheat berries. This is where things can start to feel a little confusing, but I'm going to keep it very simple. There are two main types of berries that you should know about. There are hard wheats and soft wheats. Hard wheats are best for yeasted breads like a sandwich bread. Soft wheat is perfect for things like muffins, pancakes, and cookies. A general rule of thumb is if you're going to be using yeast, you want to pull for a hard wheat. If you're going to be using baking powder or baking soda, you want to pull for a soft wheat. Now, in the freshly milled community, you're going to hear about hard white wheat, soft white wheat, einkorn, kamut, or Korjan wheat. There are lots of different types of grains, but just to get started, I recommend staying with a simple hard white wheat as it has a very mild flavor and it is very versatile. If you're going to be making bread, a hard white wheat will give you a texture very similar to what you will find on a store shelf. So your hard white wheat will give you a very basic, mildly flavored wheat, similar to what you would purchase in your grocery store. Soft white wheat is great for beginner recipes like I mentioned before. If you're going to be making pancakes, muffins, or other quick breads, a soft white wheat will give you the texture that you need. When you become comfortable with using your hard white wheat and your soft white wheat, then you can branch out and you can acquire other wheat berries. But you don't need a huge variety to begin. You can source these high quality wheats from places like Azure Standard, and if you look in my description box, you will see a link that will take you there. Azure Standard is a wonderful place where you can source high quality organic products, and wheat berries is one of their top sellers for many people in the freshly milled flour community. Amazon is another online option if you would like to have your wheat berries brought right to your door. I will also list in the description box other places where you can source high quality wheat berries. If I were starting over today and I wanted to keep things as simple as possible, I would buy my grain mill or use a high-powered machine I already have in my kitchen. I would buy 1 bag of hard white wheat and 1 bag of soft white wheat. That's it. You don't need a pantry full of grains or specialty equipment or a complicated setup. Start small. You can always build from there. So you might be wondering, do I need a mixer to work with freshly milled flour? The simple answer is no, you don't. If you're just getting started, you can absolutely mix by hand. For recipes like pancakes, muffins, and quick breads, all you need is a bowl and a spoon. So if you don't have a mixer yet, don't let that stop you from starting. But does having a mixer help? Well, a mixer really does become helpful when you start making bread regularly. Freshly milled flour creates a heartier dough, and kneading by hand can take more time and effort. That's where a mixer can really support your rhythm. There are a few great options depending on your needs. Many people start out with their KitchenAid stand mixer, and they use that for everyday baking and smaller batches. Others choose to buy the Bosch Universal Plus stand mixer, and this is really helpful if you're making bread often or in larger batches. Another option is to go with the Ankersham Original Stand Mixer. This one is very popular in the freshly milled flour community. It is designed to handle heavy dough beautifully, and it is a great long-term investment if you plan to bake this way regularly. I, on the other hand, try to keep it very simple. I use my bread machine as it is a wonderful option. Something like the Cuisinart bread maker machine has a stainless steel bread pan that will mix, knead, and even bake your bread for you. I, like many people, use it for mixing and kneading the dough, and then I bake it in the oven. This is a great option if you already have a bread machine, you're short on time, you want a more hands-off process, or you're just easing into bread making. So you might already have exactly what you need in your kitchen to get started. So really it looks like this. No mixer, perfectly fine for starting because you can always hand mix or hand knead. If you have a stand mixer, it's helpful for regular baking, especially when pulling cookies together. A heavy-duty mixer is great for frequent bread making, and a bread machine is actually the easiest and most hands-off option if you know how to tweak your bread machine recipes. I have created a playlist here on my channel that shows you how I use my bread machine to make all sorts of things in my kitchen. So after watching this video, if you would like free recipes and step-by-step breakdown of how I use freshly milled flour in my kitchen, feel free to check out my bread machine playlist. So again, don't feel like you need to have everything in place before you begin. You can start with a bowl and a spoon and build from there. Let's keep it simple. You only need a few things to begin, and then you can grow from there. Let's quickly talk about storage, because this is another place where people overcomplicate things. Wheat berries are actually very easy to store. They have a long shelf life when kept in a cool, dry place and in an airtight container. That can be glass jars, food-grade buckets, or simple pantry containers. Nothing fancy is required. And remember, you're milling your own fresh flour, so you don't need a large storage container to hold flour because you're going to be milling on demand. I do want to pause here for a moment because it's very easy to fall into the mindset that you need to do this perfectly, but you don't. You don't need the best equipment right away. You don't need every type of grain or a perfectly organized pantry. You just need a starting point. In our home, this has grown over time, but it started very simply, and yours can too. A quick reminder is that when we started, I had all-purpose flour in my pantry, and I did not throw it all away to get started with freshly milled flour. I tweaked my recipes, and I started with a half and half approach. If my recipe called for 2 cups of flour, I would use 1 cup all-purpose and 1 cup freshly milled flour. And I did that until I used up all the all-purpose flour in my kitchen. After that, I just didn't buy any more, and we made the switch to using freshly milled flour. If you're wondering what your next step should be, here's what I suggest. Take a look at all the options there are for grain mills. Choose something that is in your budget and go with a few types of grains. Again, you only need a hard white or a soft white. If you prefer hard red, you can go that way too. But I really suggest sticking to a hard wheat and a soft wheat. And then you need a simple plan, a simple recipe. I have a lot of free recipes here on my YouTube channel. If you need help finding these recipes, feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section and I will guide you. But that's it. Don't try to change everything at once. Start with a simple recipe, become comfortable with it before moving on to something else. If you start off trying to do everything, you're making sandwich loaves, you're making pancakes, you're making muffins, you're making tortillas, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Pick one thing, hone in on that recipe, get your family to love it, and then add to your repertoire. Let this be something you ease into, something that becomes part of your rhythm over time. In the next video, we're going to step into the kitchen together and I'm going to show you some very simple beginner-friendly recipes that are perfect for freshly milled flour. These are the kinds of recipes that help you build confidence quickly. So make sure you come back for that. And if you have any questions about getting started, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to help. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And I'll see you in the next one.